There's a moment, quiet and sharp, when someone's words land on your heart like an arrow. You may be walking through your day feeling steady when suddenly a comment, sometimes small, sometimes heavy, finds its mark. It is as if the world for a brief second pauses and you are left holding the sting of someone else's opinion. Why does criticism, even when softly spoken, echo so loudly inside us? Why do words, which are only sounds in the air, sometimes feel like bruises on the soul? To understand why criticism hurts so much, we must first see ourselves as we truly are: human, longing for acceptance, shaped by the need to belong. From our earliest days, we are taught to seek approval, first from parents, then from teachers, friends, and the world at large. Approval becomes a kind of currency, and criticism, its opposite, feels like a debt we cannot pay. When someone points out a flaw, questions our choices, or doubts our worth, it is not just their words we hear. It is the ancient fear of rejection, the primal ache of being cast out from the circle. Imagine criticism as a bruise. The skin may look unbroken, but beneath the surface, there is tenderness, a memory of impact. Each word that wounds us finds its way to old places: childhood moments when we felt unseen, teenage years when we felt unworthy, adult days when we doubted our path. Criticism is rarely just about the present. It is a key that unlocks every room where we have stored our insecurities. But there is more. Criticism hurts because it threatens the story we tell ourselves about who we are. We build our identity carefully, brick by brick, with every success, every compliment, every moment of pride. When someone questions us, it is as if they are pulling at the foundation, testing the strength of our self belief. Even when we know logically that not every opinion matters, our hearts are wired to listen for danger, to scan for signs that we are not enough. There's a reason why the words of strangers can sometimes hurt more than those of friends. Strangers are mirrors without memory. They reflect only what they see in the moment, unsoftened by love or understanding. Their criticism feels objective, final, as if it reveals a truth we have tried to hide. Yet even the words of those we love can cut deeply because we have handed them the power to shape our self-image. When they criticize, it feels like a betrayal, a crack in the trust we have built. The pain of criticism is also amplified by our own inner critic, the voice inside that is always watching, always judging. Sometimes the harshest words we hear are echoes of our own doubts. When someone criticizes us, it is as if they have found the frequency of our secret fears and broadcast them aloud. We are not just hurt by what is said, we are hurt by what we already believe about ourselves. And yet, to be human is to be vulnerable to words. We are social creatures designed to learn from feedback, to adjust and grow. Criticism, at its best, is a tool for growth, a sign that we are seen and engaged with the world. But when it is delivered without care, or when we are already wounded, it becomes a weapon, a reminder of every time we have fallen short. So, why does criticism hurt so much? Because it touches the most tender parts of us, the parts that want to be loved, the parts that fear being left behind, the parts that are still healing from old wounds. It is not weakness to feel this pain. It is a sign that we are alive, that we care, that we are still reaching for connection. But pain is not the end of the story. The sting of criticism is an invitation to look within, to understand our own worth, to decide which voices we will let in and which we will let pass by. It is a chance to remember that we are more than the sum of others' opinions, that our value is not up for debate. As we move forward, let us hold this truth gently. Criticism is a part of life, but it does not have to define us. We can learn to meet it with curiosity instead of fear, with strength instead of shame. The journey begins with understanding, with seeing the bruise for what it is, a mark that will fade, a lesson that will linger, a reminder that we are above all human. Transition. And so, as we step into the next part of this journey, Let us look more closely at the many faces of criticism, how to recognize them, and how to respond with wisdom and grace. In the vast landscape of human interaction, criticism is not a single mountain, but a range of peaks and valleys, each with its own shape, shadow, and weather. To journey through life is to encounter many forms of criticism, some that nourish, some that erode, and some that quietly reshape the contours of our self worth. To walk this path wisely, we must learn to recognize the terrain, to see the difference between a gentle rain that helps us grow and a storm that seeks only to uproot. Let us begin with the most generous form, constructive criticism. Imagine it as sunlight filtered through the leaves, warm, illuminating, and intended to help you see what you could not see before. Constructive criticism is rooted in care. It is the friend who points out the stain on your shirt before you step on stage, the mentor who gently suggests a new way forward, the colleague who offers feedback not to diminish you, but to help you rise. Its language is specific, its tone is respectful, and its purpose is growth. Constructive criticism is a gift, though it may not always feel like one in the moment. It asks us to trust that we are seen not as failures, but as works in progress. But not all criticism is born of kindness. There is another kind, sharp and cold, that seeks not to build, but to break. This is destructive criticism, the wind that howls only to scatter, the voice that finds fault for the sake of wounding. Destructive criticism is often vague, personal, and relentless. It attacks character instead of actions, intent instead of effort. Its words are not seeds, but stones. When you hear phrases like "you always," wait, me panda, or "but you never," when the focus is on your worth rather than your work, you are standing in the path of a storm that is not yours to weather. Destructive criticism is not about you, it is about the critic's own pain projected outward. Between these two extremes lies a subtler force, passive aggressive criticism. This is the shadow that moves at the edge of the light, the compliment with a hidden barb, the advice that feels more like a warning. Passive aggressive criticism is often disguised as concern. I'm just trying to help them, or don't take this the wrong way. But it is the smile that doesn't reach the eyes, the suggestion that leaves you doubting your own instincts. This kind of criticism is confusing because it wears the mask of friendship while quietly undermining your confidence. It is a whisper that lingers long after the conversation ends. There is yet another form, perhaps the most insidious, criticism disguised as advice. This is the river that looks calm on the surface first, but hides a current beneath. It comes from those who claim to know what is best for you, who offer guidance that feels more like control. If I were you, I would, or you should really, well, these are the phrases that gently push you away from your own path and onto someone else's. This kind of criticism is difficult to spot because it is wrapped in the language of care, but it leaves you feeling smaller, less certain, less yourself. To recognize these types of criticism is to reclaim your power. It is to become a gardener of your own mind, choosing which seeds to plant and which weeds to pull. When you hear criticism, pause and ask, is this meant to help me grow or to hold me back? Is it specific and actionable or vague and personal? Does it come from a place of love or from a place of pain? The answers will guide you, helping you to respond with wisdom rather than reaction. Remember, not all criticism deserves a place in your garden. Some words are meant to be carried away by the wind, never allowed to take root. Others, though uncomfortable, may hold the promise of new growth. The art is in knowing the difference, in trusting your own discernment, and setting boundaries that protect your spirit. As you move through the world, you will encounter all these forms: constructive, destructive, passive aggressive, and disguised as advice. Each has its own lesson, its own weather, but you are not at the mercy of every storm. You can choose which voices to let in, which to let pass by, and which to meet with silence. Let this knowledge be your compass. When criticism comes, you will not be lost. You will know the landscape, the signs, the seasons. You will walk with clarity, with self respect, with the quiet strength of one who knows their own worth. Transition. And now, having learned to recognize the many faces of criticism, let us turn to the art of responding, how to receive what is meant to help, and how to let go of what is meant to harm so that you may continue your journey with grace and confidence. There's a rare kind of rain that falls not to flood, but to nourish. Constructive criticism is this gentle rain, sometimes unexpected, sometimes uncomfortable, but always carrying the potential for new growth. To receive it is to stand in the open, to let the drops touch your skin, and to trust that what feels cold at first may in time help you bloom. When someone offers you feedback meant to help, the heart's first instinct may be to shield itself, to brace against the possibility of pain. But imagine for a moment that feedback is not a weapon, but a lantern held out to illuminate a path you could not see alone. The person who offers it is not your adversary, but a fellow traveler, pausing to point out a stone in the road or a turn you might have missed. In this light, criticism becomes less of a threat and more of a gift, an invitation to see yourself with new eyes. To accept constructive criticism is to practice the art of listening, not just with your ears, but with your whole being. It is to quiet the inner voice that rushes to defend, to explain, to justify. It is to breathe deeply and let the words settle, like seeds in fertile soil. Not every seed will take root, but some may grow into wisdom you could not have found alone. There is a gentle strength in asking questions, in seeking clarity rather than closure. When you receive feedback, you might ask, can you help me understand what you noticed? Or is there a specific example you can share? These questions are not admissions of failure, but acts of courage. They show a willingness to learn, to grow, to become more than you were yesterday. In this way, criticism becomes a bridge, not a wall between who you are and who you are becoming. It is important, too, to remember that your worth is not measured by your mistakes. You are not the sum of your errors, nor the echo of someone else's disappointment. You are a living story unfolding with every choice, every lesson, every moment of humility. When you separate your self-worth from your shortcomings, you create space for growth without shame. You allow yourself to be both imperfect and valuable, both learning and worthy of love. Constructive criticism is not always easy to hear. Sometimes it arrives when you are tired, when you are already doubting yourself, when you wish only for comfort. In these moments, it is tempting to turn away, to close the door on anything that feels like judgment. But if you can stay open, if you can let the words in, even just a little, you may find that what stings today becomes strength tomorrow. Growth is rarely a straight line. It is a spiral, a dance, a series of small awakenings. Each time you receive feedback and choose to listen, you are practicing the art of self-improvement. You are learning to see yourself not as a finished product, but as a work in progress, a garden that is always in season, always becoming. Let criticism be the sunlight that helps you see your own potential. Let it be the gentle nudge that reminds you you are capable of more than you know. Let it be the mirror that reflects not just your flaws, but your willingness to change, to adapt, to rise. And when you have listened, when you have learned, remember to thank the one who offered you their perspective. Gratitude is the water that helps new growth take root. Now, it is the acknowledgement that even in discomfort, there is value. Even in challenge, there is opportunity. As you move forward, carry this truth with you. To accept constructive criticism is not to admit defeat, but to embrace possibility. It is to honor your own journey by welcoming every chance to become wiser, kinder, and more resilient. Transition. And so, as we learn to welcome the rain that helps us grow, let us also learn to recognize the storms that do not serve us. In the next part of our journey, we will explore how to protect ourselves from the words that seek only to wound and how to remain whole in the face of hurtful or toxic criticism. There are words that land softly like petals on water, and there are words that arrive like thorns, sharp, unexpected, and meant to pierce. Hurtful or toxic criticism is the storm that does not seek to nourish, but to uproot. It is the cold wind that chills the spirit, the echo of someone else's pain disguised as truth. To walk through life is to encounter these storms, but you are not powerless in their presence. You can learn how to deal with toxic criticism, how to protect your self esteem, and how to ignore haters without losing your light. Imagine your self worth as a garden, carefully tended, full of color and quiet strength. Toxic criticism is the weed that tries to take root, the shadow that seeks to block the sun. But not every weed deserves your attention, and not every shadow is a sign of darkness within you. Sometimes the harshest words are simply reflections of the critic's own struggle, a projection of their wounds, their envy, their unmet needs. When someone lashes out with mean, personal, or manipulative comments, remember, their words are a mirror of their own weather, not a measure of your value. To protect yourself, you must first recognize when criticism is not about you. Listen for the signs, vague accusations, personal attacks, or comments that seem designed to provoke rather than to help. These are the red flags of toxic criticism. They are the voices that say, you'll never be enough, or you always fail, or no one cares what you think. And these words are not feedback. They are attempts to diminish your spirit, to make you question your place in the world. In these moments, boundaries become your shelter. Boundaries are the invisible fences that protect your garden, the gentle but firm lines that say, this is where I end and you begin. Setting boundaries is not an act of anger, but of self respect. It is the quiet refusal to let someone else's storm flood your peace. You can choose not to engage, not to explain, not to absorb the poison of another's pain. You can say, I hear your words, but I do not accept them as my truth. Sechol, you can walk away, not in defeat, but in dignity. There is power in not taking things personally. When criticism is hurled like a stone, it is tempting to catch it, to hold it close, to let it bruise your heart, but you can let it fall. You can remember that you are not responsible for the weather in someone else's soul. Their anger, their bitterness, their need to control, these are burdens you do not have to carry. You are allowed to protect your self-esteem, to guard your joy, to remain whole even in the face of attack. Sometimes the best response is silence. Silence is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is the space in which you reclaim your power, the pause that allows you to breathe, to reflect, to choose your next step. When someone tries to bait you into a fight, you can choose not to enter the ring. When someone tries to define you with their words, you can choose to define yourself with your actions, your values, your quiet strength. If you must respond, let your words be few and firm. I disagree, but I respect your right to your opinion. I am not available for this conversation. I choose not to engage with negativity. These are scripts for the soul, simple, clear, and protective. They are the verbal boundaries that remind both you and the critic that your worth is not up for debate. To ignore haters is not to pretend they do not exist, but to refuse to let them shape your story. Haters thrive on reaction, on the energy you give them. When you withhold that energy, when you focus instead on your own growth, your own healing, your own journey, you become untouchable. You become the gardener who tends to the flowers, not the weeds. Remember, healing from toxic criticism is a process. There will be days when the words linger, when the shadows feel long. Be gentle with yourself. Affirm your value. Remind yourself of your strengths and seek out the voices that lift you up. Surround yourself with those who see your light, who water your growth, who celebrate your becoming. You are not defined by the storms you endure, but by the way you rise after the rain. You are not the sum of others' opinions, but the author of your own worth. Protect your self-esteem as you would a precious seed. Nurture it defend it, and trust that it will bloom in its own time. Transition. As we learn to shield ourselves from the storms of toxic criticism, let us also discover how to build resilience from within. In the next part of our journey, we will explore how to become less sensitive to criticism, how to strengthen our confidence, and how to walk through the world with unshakable peace. There is a quiet strength that grows not in the absence of storms, but in learning how to stand within them. Emotional resilience is not a shield that keeps all arrows away, but a transformation of the self, a gradual becoming where the heart learns to be less pierced by every passing word. To build resilience is to become both softer and stronger, to let the world's opinions pass over you like rain on stone, leaving you shaped but not shattered. Imagine for a moment that your spirit is a tree. In the early years, every gust of wind bends your branches, every harsh word shakes your roots. But as seasons pass, you learn to sway without breaking, to let the wind move through you without uprooting your sense of self. This is the art of building thicker skin, not by hardening, but by deepening your roots, by knowing who you are beneath the surface. Resilience begins with the stories you tell yourself. The mind is a garden, and self talk is the gardener. If you water your thoughts with doubt and fear, weeds of insecurity will grow. But if you tend your mind with kindness, with affirmations that remind you of your worth, you will find that criticism loses its power to wound. When you hear a negative comment, pause and ask, is this the truth of who I am or just a passing shadow? In this gentle questioning, you reclaim your authority over your own narrative. Affirmations are not empty words, they are seeds of self respect. To say, I am enough or I am learning and growing is to build a foundation that cannot be easily shaken. Each time you affirm your value, you become a little more bulletproof to negativity. The arrows may still fly, but they find less and less to pierce. Reframing is another tool of resilience. When criticism comes, it is easy to see it as a verdict, a final judgment on your character. But what if you saw it instead as information, as one perspective among many? What if you could say, this is not about my worth, but about someone else's view or about a moment in time? In this way, you become the alchemist of your own experience, turning lead into gold, pain into wisdom. To be less sensitive to criticism is not to stop caring, but to care more wisely. It is to recognize that not every opinion deserves a place in your heart. Some words are like passing clouds, real, but temporary, unable to block the sun for long. When you stop caring what others think, you do not become indifferent, you become free. You give yourself permission to live according to your own values, to measure your progress by your own standards. Confidence is not the absence of doubt, but the willingness to move forward despite it. It is the quiet voice that says, I am still worthy even when I am criticized. I am still growing even when I stumble. Confidence is built in small moments. Each time you choose to believe in yourself, each time you refuse to let someone else's words define your journey. Resilience is also found in boundaries. To protect your peace is not selfish, it is sacred. You are allowed to step back from conversations that drain you, to say no to relationships that erode your self esteem, to walk away from environments that do not honor your growth. Boundaries are the walls that keep your garden safe, the lines that say, I will not let your storm become my weather. Wow. Over time, as you practice these habits, kind self talk, affirmations, reframing, and boundaries, you will notice a change. The words that once wounded you will begin to lose their sting. You will become less reactive, more reflective. You will find that you can listen to criticism without absorbing it, that you can learn from feedback without losing your confidence. To become bulletproof to negativity is not to become numb, but to become wise. It is to know that your worth is not up for debate, that your journey is your own, that you are the author of your story. It is to walk through the world with an open heart and a steady mind unshaken by the noise around you. Let this be your quiet revolution to build emotional resilience, not by closing yourself off, but by opening yourself to the truth of your own value. To let criticism be the wind that shapes you, not the storm that breaks you. To remember always that you are more than the sum of others' opinions. You are a living testament to the power of growth, of healing, of self respect. Transition. As you grow stronger in the face of criticism, you will find new opportunities for learning and transformation. In the next part of our journey, let us explore how to turn even the harshest feedback into fuel for personal growth and how to rise each time the world tries to hold you back. There is a quiet alchemy in the way we meet criticism, a chance to turn the lead of harsh words into the gold of self discovery. To learn from criticism without losing confidence is to become both the sculptor and the stone, shaping yourself with each lesson while never forgetting the strength that lies within. Imagine feedback as a river. Sometimes it rushes, cold and biting, carrying debris from distant storm. Sometimes it is gentle, clear, and nourishing, but always it moves, offering the possibility of change, of renewal, of growth. The art is not in resisting the current, but in learning how to swim with it, to let it carry away what no longer serves you, and to keep what makes you stronger. When criticism arrives, it is easy to let it settle in your bones, to let it become a weight that drags you down. But what if instead you could hold it lightly, turning it over in your hands, asking, remember, here, is there a lesson here? Not every comment is a map, but some may point to places within you that are ready for transformation. To ask, what can I improve, is not to admit defeat, but to embrace the journey of becoming. Growth is not the absence of mistakes, but the willingness to learn from them. Each time you receive feedback, you are given a mirror, not to judge your reflection, but to see yourself more clearly. Yoi. Sometimes the mirror is kind, sometimes it is harsh, but always it offers a chance to see beyond your habits, your defenses, your old stories. In this way, criticism becomes a teacher, not a tyrant. To learn from criticism is to separate your identity from your actions. You are not your errors, nor your achievements. You are the one who learns, who adapts, who grows. When you hear feedback, remind yourself, this is about what I did, not who I am. In this gentle distinction, you protect your self-worth while opening yourself to change. There is wisdom in reframing criticism as information, not condemnation. When someone points out a flaw, you can choose to see it as a data point, a single note in the symphony of your life. You can ask, is this true for me? Is there something here I have not seen? In this way, you become the scientist of your own experience, curious and open, unafraid to experiment, to adjust, to evolve. Confidence is not the absence of doubt, but the courage to keep moving forward. When you learn from criticism, you are not shrinking, you are expanding. You are saying, I am willing to grow, to change, to become more than I was yesterday. This is the heart of self-respect, the knowledge that you are worthy of growth, worthy of new beginnings, worthy of the effort it takes to improve. Let feedback be the wind that shapes your sails, not the storm that sinks your ship. Let it be the gentle pressure that helps you find your true direction, the nudge that reminds you to stay awake, to stay humble, to stay open. When you meet criticism with curiosity instead of fear, you become unbreakable. Not because you never bend, but because you always return to your center. There will be times when feedback is harsh, when words are sharper than you expect. In these moments, breathe. Remember that you are not alone in this journey. Every person who has ever grown has faced the sting of criticism, the discomfort of change. You're part of a long lineage of learners, of seekers, of those who choose to rise. To grow after criticism is to honor your own resilience. It is to say, I am not defined by my mistakes, but by my willingness to learn from them. Well, it is to trust that every lesson, no matter how difficult, is a step on the path to wisdom. In that way, so you become both student and teacher, learning from the world and teaching yourself how to rise. And Becky says, let your confidence be the soil in which new growth takes root. Let your self worth be the sun that helps you bloom. And let every piece of feedback, no matter how small, be the water that nourishes your journey. Transition. As you continue to learn and grow, remember that your greatest strength lies in staying true to yourself. In the final part of our journey, we will explore how to hold on to your values, your vision, and your inner light no matter what others may say. There is a quiet revolution that begins the moment you decide to belong to yourself. In a world that is always speaking, offering opinions, judgments, and unsolicited advice, there is a rare and radiant strength in learning how to stay true to your own heart. To believe in yourself after criticism is to become the anchor in your own storm, the lighthouse that guides you home no matter how wild the waves. Imagine your spirit as a compass, always pointing toward your true north. The voices of others may swirl around you like wind, sometimes gentle, sometimes fierce, but your direction is set by something deeper, your values, your dreams, your quiet knowing. To stay confident after criticism is to trust this inner compass, to remember that you are the only one who can walk your path. There will always be those who misunderstand you, who question your choices, who try to fit you into the shape of their own expectations. Their words may be loud, their opinions insistent, but they are not the architects of your destiny. You are not here to be defined by the shifting sands of outside approval. You are here to build your life on the solid ground of self acceptance and inner strength. To believe in yourself is not arrogance, it is an act of courage. It is the willingness to say, I am enough, even when others cannot see it. I am worthy, even when I am doubted. I am whole, even when I am criticized. This is how you keep going despite negativity, by choosing again and again to return to your own truth. Let criticism be just one voice in the chorus of your life, not the conductor. Let it be the passing weather, not the climate of your soul. When you hear harsh words, pause and ask, is this the truth of who I am, or just a reflection of someone else's fears? In this gentle questioning, you reclaim your power. You remember that you are not here to please everyone, but to honor the calling that lives within you. Staying true to yourself means setting boundaries, not out of anger, but out of love for your own peace. It means saying no to what drains you, yes to what nourishes you, and trusting that the right people will find you when you are living in alignment with your values. Your boundaries are not walls. They are the gates that protect your garden, the lines that keep your spirit safe. There is a deep freedom in letting go of the need for universal approval. When you stop chasing validation, you make space for authenticity. You give yourself permission to be imperfect, to make mistakes, to grow at your own pace. You learn that your worth is not a group project, not a vote, not a reflection in someone else's mirror. It is the quiet certainty that you are enough simply because you exist. To keep going despite negativity is to become resilient, not by hardening, but by softening into your own truth. It is to let the world's opinions wash over you without washing you away. It is to remember that every great journey is met with resistance, every dream with doubt, every act of self love with misunderstanding. But you are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to understand yourself. Let your life be your answer to criticism. Let your actions speak louder than words, your kindness outshine cruelty, your persistence outlast doubt. When you live in alignment with your values, you become a beacon for others who are searching for their own light. You show them that it is possible to rise, to heal, to thrive, even in the face of adversity. And when you falter, as all humans do, return to your center. Breathe. Remind yourself that you are a work in progress, a masterpiece in motion. Celebrate your growth, honor your boundaries, and forgive yourself for the times you let others' voices drown out your own. Each day is a new chance to begin again, to choose yourself, to walk your path with courage and grace. In the end, staying true to yourself is the greatest gift you can give to the world. It is the foundation of all healing, the root of all confidence, the source of all authentic joy. When you live from this place, you become unshakable, not because you are never hurt, but because you always return to your own truth. So let the world speak. Let the critics come and go. You are the author of your story, the keeper of your flame, the guardian of your peace. Trust yourself, believe in your journey, and know deep in your bones that you are enough, no matter what others say. Closing. As this journey comes to a close, carry with you the wisdom that your worth is not determined by the voices around you, but by the quiet strength within. May you walk forward with confidence, compassion, and the unbreakable knowledge that you are and always have been enough.